Greetings and welcome, everyone. Today is June 11th, 2022. I'm joined here with Michael again, and we are going to delve into the Kennedy assassination, dealing with biblical view on conspiracies. Michael has put together a session for us today. We're on session number 35. Michael's done this work in German and has labored to put the entire series in English for us. And Michael, we are very privileged here to have you as our, well, what can we say? Our teacher, in the sense of what happened many years ago, dealing with the many different aspects of this true conspiracy that was done against the, what can we say, against the people, really, because this is more of a secular study, Michael. This is not necessarily a purely biblical study, but that's kind of how we work things from time to time. We're just, hoping to find new listeners that are interested in hearing what very interesting and intricate study that Michael has put together in German and bringing it to the English-speaking world. So welcome, Michael.
Yeah, hello, Brett. Well, you see that sometimes it's too much. The entire JFK assassination research, it takes so much time, and you see that there is so much time left for several things.
Yeah, that's true. It really does take time to research.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, that was the usual interference.
That's okay.
Yeah, but nevertheless, we have done 34 sessions so far, and this is session 35, if I have calculated it correctly. So that means we are in more than the middle of things, I hope, and I hope to see some light, that we can see some end to the Kennedy conspiracy assassination research. But we are now in the part of the so-called lone nut assassin Lee Harvey Oswald. We did 8 parts of the JFK ritual, and we will come to that assassination and how they most probably did it later on. This is now to clear things up, to clear matters up, because in the last sessions we have talked about the Secret Service. And now in that session here, I would try to turn everything around. So usually I would start with some details and some interesting stuff, and in the end it will end all up together to my conclusion. But now I start from the very end of it. So I will reveal my conclusion on it, and then you see maybe my way of thinking, of my way of research, and then you can think about all the nitty-gritties and all the details. And so that we have to face the fact that all has been staged by a Secret Service. Otherwise, it would not make any sense to spend 2 sessions on Secret Service, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. So this is the headline on the Freemason newspaper called the Dallas Morning News. There are 2 headlines, actually. The first headline reads, "Thousands pay homage to murdered president," on page 2, speaking of JFK. And the second one, the bigger one, is "The club owner kills Oswald," on page, I don't know, 3 or what, or 9. Yeah, I think it must be 3. What do you see on that picture, Brett? What do you see? Just tell me, what do you see when you first take a look at that picture?
Oh, you see a gun pointed right at the lower region of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So that would be Jack Ruby in the foreground, and and it looks like it's almost, would you say, an orchestrated photo, like it was set up this way. I mean, you wouldn't just see a photo like that. I mean, that's just too orchestrated for I don't know, man. I just
Yeah, you're spot on.
that's
You're
really
spot
weird.
on. You're spot on. Your first impression must be that looks a little bit artificial. And
Yeah.
that does not look like a natural reaction on somebody who's pointing a gun at somebody. Yeah. So you see the background is, if we come to that, you all know now that this is Elm Street, Texas Book, etc., etc., and it happened just here. Yeah. So it happened at the station, at the pavement,
Wow.
actually, here, when he was led outside to the daylight. And so that at the point when he was facing the obelisk, speaking of Osiris or the temple as such, then the shot occurred, the attack occurred. That was here. That was not inside a building or inside a police station or so. No, the Dallas police station was positioned here. Yeah. But the thing is that it is just happened also in Didi Plaza. So it is another murder in Didi Plaza. And so you have to take that into consideration, that it might be also a religious, mythological, ritual background on that. So now that you see that this is the pavement here, and they are guiding him outside from the Dallas police station now to the outside, to the Didi Plaza. Actually, it happened in Didi Plaza. And that, of course, is Mr. Club owner Jack Ruby. And I promise to turn everything around now, and I will now try to tell you that Lee Harvey Oswald worked as a low-rank CIA member, so that he was been handed over some tasks, he was being handed over to transport some things, and he was also been sent to the Soviet Union in the 1960s. So this Lee Harvey Oswald was not the private lone nut. He was officially married, had 2 children, one of them was just a few weeks old, and he was working also for the CIA. And he was just working for several weeks in the Texas School Book Depository. Ah, what a coincidence, huh? And on the right side, you see here the back of Jack Ruby. Jack Ruby happened to have a nightclub where many, many prominent people on Dallas are meeting together. For example, Freemasons, for example, police guys, for example, hookers, for example, etc., etc. And he was working as an informant for the FBI. And also he had ties, of course, he was having a nightclub, to the mafia, to the mob. So both of the parties here, Oswald as the victim and Jack Ruby as the killer, supposed killer, they were no ordinary people. They were both working for agencies. That is very important to know. So that, of course, is a staged event. Because there were media all around. You see here a guy with a big microphone, and there were media and television cameras. So he was being shot officially in front of the camera. He was being shot in broad daylight for the entire audience to see that, oh yeah, now we can't ask him anymore because he has been shot officially and been pronounced dead 1 hour and 47 minutes later. We will come to that. So that is a staged event. That was the first impression that I got from looking to this and comparing that with other information. But let's move on. You see, I want to have quality over quantity because you can lose yourself in the entire JFK research. You can spend your entire life on the assassination and on many things surrounding the event, but I just want to see the nitty-gritty of it all because everything can be faked. Every victim or any witness can be faked. Any testimony can be faked. Yeah, so we do not know on the first side which is real and which is fake. So we have to use common sense, and we have, of course, to use the Bible. And that's the problem. We've been bombarded with information which is absolutely unnecessary to know regarding the assassination of Kennedy and, of course, regarding other current events. So once again, this very joyful tune here by Mike Waters says, I wonder why I don't hear from the shepherd anymore. That is a quote of John 10:27. And I would not use that quote at the moment because it comes from the NIV and not from the King James Bible. But of course, it has a resemblance to the shepherd or the Lord Jesus Christ. So that you see that on that picture here, it's been displayed that you will be distracted by using the entertainment, so to speak, to entertain you mentally from the television, from the cinema, from the laptop, from the smartphone, from headphones, from the radio, and from magazines. Yeah. But you see that if people would read the Bible or listen to God, I don't hope that it's not Jesus Christ here, but just a picture of a shepherd here. Yeah, then you see that you don't see. In German, we have a saying: you don't see the forest because of all the trees. Yeah, it's just too much information, just information overload. So you have to keep it very simple. Yeah. If you see that picture from another perspective, because we are so lucky to have valid pictures and movies, films of it, you see that from that perspective, and it's very lucky. I said it was no magic bullet, because if there was a magic bullet coming out of the revolver of Jack Ruby, actually his name is Jack Rubenstein, but he changed that in 1947. We have learned that. Then the magic bullet would have gone through Mr. Oswald, hitting another police agent, then ricochet, hitting the wall, coming back from the wall, hitting another tree, hitting another feet, hitting another stomach, hitting another ear, or what else. So a majority of people would have been killed by one shot, huh?
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, you see the danger of killing somebody in the public. There are two dangers. The first danger is you see that it is so openly made here that it was absolutely logical that Jack Ruby could not get away. So that is the first conclusion. Why would you try to assassinate somebody and been convicted for that? Yeah. The second problem I got with that picture is it has happened here inside, or more or less in a Dallas police station area, with many people around. So everything could have been gotten worse. So maybe you see that there was a second bullet fired accidentally and killing another policeman or so, or maybe he was being thrown to the ground and a bullet traveled out of the revolver into somebody's head. You see that it is very highly dangerous, that kind of action here. It is not a one-to-one situation, but there are many people surrounding the captive here. And don't forget, this is a Dallas police station area, which means there are highly professional, skilled people dealing with emergency situation. So usually you would expect them to have been reacted to somebody who's then coming forward with a gun, won't you? Because officially in the United States, if I remember correctly, on the police station or on the police cars, there is a sticker called "To Protect and to Serve," but it seems that they're just only protecting and serving the state and not the civilians. You see, they got the responsibility of the prisoner here, but they are doing nothing but looking very angry at somebody who is coming forward with a gun. And now please compare the headline here. What's the headline, Brad?
FBI tipped Oswald would be killed.
Yeah, and the FBI is the major agency on top of the Dallas Police.
Federal Bureau of Investigations, Mike.
Yeah, so it was highly likely that there would be somebody who could assassinate Mr. Oswald, especially when the Dallas Times-Herald said so. But they did not protect him. Yeah, so that means that as well as the Secret Service failed into the protection of Mr. Kennedy, the Dallas police failed for the protection of the lone nut Lee Harvey Oswald. Yeah, so this is another, how to say that, coincidence. These are highly trained people. Yeah, these are people usually trained to get rid of emergency situations, overthrow people, and wearing guns. You see anybody who's wearing a gun here without the exception of Jack Ruby? I don't see anybody. So it looks staged. And if you type in today at Google or so, you type in Magic Bullet, you get a Magic Bullet Kitchen Express mixer. Yeah, you have to type in Magic Bullet JFK. Yeah, so you see that they're making fun of you. It's just, it's unbelievable. This old thing, you see that we did 8 sessions about the JFK ritual. Why should I be convinced? If I know that the killing of the President Kennedy did not happen as it has been stated on Wikipedia or officially, what shall convince me that the killing or supposed killing of Lee Harvey Oswald took place as it was stated on Wikipedia? Tell me one reason. Yeah. You see, these people are making fun of you. We will go into the Magic Bullet extensively later on, not in this session and not in the next 5 sessions, but later on. The government is making fun of you. Okay, the Warren Commission only stated it was a single bullet theory. There was a certain individual who came up with the term of magic bullet, but the official government explanation or Warren Commission explanation is a single bullet theory. But let's not forget, it's all a ritual. Yeah, so please spot the difference. Yeah. Brett, there is somebody who is threatening somebody that he could take his life immediately. Where are the people looking?
They are not looking at the threat, that's for sure.
Yeah, so they are looking away to the press to make an appearance, to the camera. Yeah, it's all just happening for television here. As you see, this is a picture here, but there's also raw footage and the edited footage, which means this is just more or less an event. Yeah, so that the Dallas police is capable of presenting the supposed assassin of President Kennedy. Yeah, this is all a press event here. This is just for publicity. It's just a stunt. It is just a stunt. Okay. And that's what got me into thinking. You know that individual here?
It looks like, let me think now. What is this legendary name?
Dirty Harry.
Yeah. What's his name, this actor? I can't think of his name right now.
Clint
Eastwood, yeah.
Clint Eastwood, yes. Making the 666 sign here.
Right, right.
So I know. I stumbled across a few years ago that he was being member of some Freemason lodge. But of course, as a highly paid actor, as highly paid and highly attributed director, etc., he's such a household name that you know that he's got a Jesuitical kind of attitude, and he's only busy with that. Or the majority of his people, or the majority, of his movies are concerning death. But speaking of him, I just had an idea, and I would like to share that idea. There was a movie of 1993 called In the Line of Fire. It is a political action thriller directed by Wolfgang Petersen, that's a German guy, and starring Clint Eastwood. The film is about a disillusioned and obsessed former CIA agent who attempts to assassinate the President of the United States and a Secret Service agent who tracks him. Eastwood's character is the sole active duty Secret Service agent who is still remaining from the detail that had guarded John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Texas at the time of his assassination in 1963. You now maybe know why I came up with Clint Eastwood as well. Horrigan, that's his character here, received a phone call from McCrawley, who calls himself Booth. Brett. Coincidence, huh? Yeah, Booth happened to be the assassin of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He tells Horrigan that, like John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, he plans to kill the President of the United States, who's running for re-election and is making many public appearances around the country. So much so. Yeah, so there's a reference from Clint Eastwood to JFK as well. But that got me into thinking, because that I also had the idea that it is a staged event, that there is something fishy about it. So even if he is or is not a Freemason, I don't care. I know that he's got a high-paid actor. He was a mayor of a city, etc., etc., etc. So this guy is at least Jesuitically trained. But I thought maybe there's more to it. In 1964, he had made his first major movie or major role in the movie called A Fistful of Dollars. He was Joe, or the Man with No Name, in a Sergio Leone movie, Western movie, music by Ennio Morricone, and produced in German and shot in Spain. That is called A Fistful of Dollars. And that got me into thinking. Keep it simple, stupid. That's why I like to share now an excerpt from you. I hope that it will pass through the laws in the United States. So I will give it a try. And maybe then you see the reference to the Jack Ruby case.
Harder, you'll never stop me.
So, Brett, now that you have seen that excerpt that I shown, you know maybe what my intention was.
Mm-hmm.
What could have happened there? You saw that movie of Clint Eastwood, which was being shot in 1964 and was released in 1964. So after Kennedy assassination and Jack Ruby killing was taking place. Ask yourself, do you see the shot? You see now this picture here, and this picture is vital for any research, and that picture is also very vital. I said I will show you my train of thoughts. To do so, I will show you the event as it was presented to the audience when Lee Harvey Oswald was being led out of the police station into the Dealey Plaza. Yeah, and we will pause that on several occasions here, okay? Yeah, so now the people are coming up. Jack Ruby must be somewhere here. Look very closely. Now they're being leading out with Mr. Oswald.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Everybody's looking in that direction here. Yeah, here's daylight. You see the sun here. You see the shadow, and you see here is the end of the wall. So this is the pavement here. This guy is standing on the pavement on the Houston Street. You see that because a car will appear very soon from the left side. Yeah. So officially, he's been taken from the Dallas police station into the Dallas jail. Yeah. But you see that with much media appearance and under the eyes of the television. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is actually here Dealey Plaza where the people are standing. And now please look what happened. Now you see this character here, Jack Ruby, is coming from that spot. And from that left side, there's a car coming. Yeah, so supposedly this must be the pavement and this must be the street. So it did not happen inside a police headquarters or somebody called it happened inside a basement or so. It happened on the street, more or less. And then you see that massive guy, Jack Ruby here, storming forwards to Lee Harvey Oswald. And then you hear a shot. Pow. Yeah. And then people are looking very concerned. Yeah. You see, not reacting here to that guy, huh?
No, it's really strange.
looking very angrily. How dare you? Yeah. And now, with the combined effort of several people, they bring him down, and also there is a struggle here. Oswald must be somewhere here. I don't know. So that is all you can see. And the next problem occurs because you see now that this is also not a raw movie. This is an edited movie because you see that happening here from several perspectives.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Michael. How come they changed the perspective last second here?
Yeah.
Like
there.
See, yeah. Why did they
right
change?
There is a cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it happened that there is also raw footage, but you cannot see everything on the raw footage. You see, this is some raw footage.
Oh, that's that same dumb angle.
Yeah.
They give you the raw footage of that angle and not the other.
Yeah, of course. You only have dumb angles here.
Yeah.
Be it pictures, be it videos. There's always dumb angles here. You don't see anything.
No.
Yeah. So that's the only confusion you will see. Yeah, and all the blah, blah, blah from the reporter. So once again, you see, this is a movie. Oswald has been shot. Oswald has been shot. There is a man with a gun. Yeah, Dallas Police Headquarters. So that's it. And now people are handing out their guns. And this guy says, oh yeah, blank range, etc., etc. It's just totally emotionless. Yeah. Jörg said maybe they were briefed.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Be it so, compare that to the movie you've seen with Clint Eastwood from 1964. Yeah. He was wearing a bulletproof vest. You see, when Lee Harvey Oswald was taken into custody, he was wearing just a white T-shirt. But I looked up the interrogation report from Lee Harvey Oswald from the Dallas police station, and he said, or he demanded officially, a black shirt, yeah, or black pullover. So, and that's all you see. You see black, 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 black. Everything is black. You can't see anything. Especially, you cannot see clearly the angle of the gun. Yeah, because officially the cause of death is a shot to the stomach. But in every angle you see that he's crossing his arms upon the stomach. So either he was being shot in the chest, or I don't know, but I would highly suggest that did not happen as it has been stated on Wikipedia. The official explanation must be wrong. Why? Well, why? Because we had 38 sessions before, and it was a ritual killing, and it happened in DD Plaza. So what shall convince me that it happened the natural way, huh? Of course, this is the difference between what you see and what you think you are seeing. Yeah, you see that he's been shot already here, supposedly. Yeah, but now he has crossed his left arm upon the chest or so has been shot already. So why is he just not noticing it? Oh, because he's deaf, huh? Okay. So, and now comes the big but. What shall convince me that Lee Harvey Oswald did not wear a bulletproof vest? The people just said, the people just saw that Jack Ruby was getting into the scene, was shooting with or was handing a gun to. Come again. The people just saw that Jack Ruby was just going on, and that he was just pointing a gun or revolver to Lee Harvey Oswald. And then you hear a shot. You don't see him. You just hear a shot, and you see Oswald yelling. That's it. Yeah. So that everybody would presume, okay, of course, Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald. But that's the same problem I got with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. When somebody is sitting in the Texas Book School depository on the 6th floor and is holding a gun to the presidential limousine, and then you hear a shot, it does not mean that that shot came from that gun. That is your conclusion. But that is just a hint. It is not proof. For proof, you would need to have the bullet. And then you would have to make a comparison. You would have to compare that bullet to the gun. But that's not possible here. Because no one can see anything out of the pictures and out of the movie, because the view has been blocked. And that means that you don't see the firing of a gun, you don't see the bullet striking, you don't see nothing. And that kept me thinking. I said, there is something to it. That is a staged event. And that is quite clear. If you would like to compare that to the upper pictures here, then you don't need any explanation. You don't need 5 hours or 5 years in research about that case, because it is quite clear. You only have to look at the mugshots here, Brett. Do you see any interesting details in the mugshot?
Not well. There, I think you pointed this out. Lee Harvey Oswald in the upper left looks like he has above his eyebrow some kind of wound.
Yeah, that's right. That is also the head wound of Revelation 3:13, the reference which I made several sessions before. But that would not be my point. It is quite obvious. It is so obvious. It is actually so simple. You have to think very simple to come to the nitty-gritty, because you have to compare the both pictures. You see, these pictures were taken with 1 day difference. 1 day. Yeah, you see, the left picture has been taken on the 23rd of November, 1 day after the assassination, and the second picture has been taken 2 days after the assassination, or 1 day after the picture been taken of Lee Harvey Oswald. So what do you see? To me, it's totally obvious, because I'm just looking into ritual things. It's the same thing that happened on the Dealey Plaza.
Go ahead, Michael.
Look at the number of Lee Harvey Oswald and compare that to the number of Jack Ruby. What do you see?
What's the
These
difference?
pictures, yeah.
The number is 54,018 as compared to 36,396 or 8.
98, yes. Yes, and these pictures were taken within a day difference. Do you really think that they have captured 17,000 people in the Dallas police quarters within 1 day?
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. So either these are just numbers by random, or they have a special meaning. So what is 5 plus 4 plus 1 plus 8, Brett?
Let's see, 9, 10, 18. And 1 plus 8 is 9.
It's 18. It's 18 means not only 9, but
6 plus 6 plus 6.
666. So he's the victim right from the start. Yeah, he has to be sacrificed. That is what, to my humble opinion, his number is telling us. He will be slain. He will be the victim. So now to compare that with the very, very, very low number of Mr. Jack Ruby, and you have to count once again. So what is 3 plus 6 plus 3 plus 9 plus 8?
Okay, we got 12 plus 9 would be 21 plus 8, 29.
So what is 2 plus 9?
11.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and then you have 9 over on the left and 11 on the right. Because 1 plus 8 is 9.
Mm-hmm.
9/11.
Yeah,
Interesting, Michael.
You see how easy it is if you just compare symbolism. Lee Harvey Oswald 666 indicated means that he's the victim, and the so-called Jack Ruby has been labeled here as 11, which means that he's serving the Freemasons. Remember the 6th floor window on the Dallas Schoolbook Depository with the 11 areas of the window on top.
11 rows of bricks, yes.
Yeah. So he's
11 steps to the Zapruder area where he was filming.
Yeah. And many people will say that it's totally BS what I'm telling you, but you see that's how the cookie crumbles, in my humble opinion. Now, there are no such coincidences that Lee Harvey Oswald got a 666 in his number and that Jack Ruby, on the other hand, has got a number which is more than 17,000 digits lower and then comes out with an 11. Oh, really? You can see that it's all been staged. So up to now, I know there are death certificates and all the things around, but you see that we are dealing with the secret societies. We are dealing with secret services, with the FBI, which had a tip that Oswald would be shot. So if they would have a tip that Oswald would be shot, naturally you could equip the poor guy with the bulletproof vest. Or, well, the gun was fake. Meaning, it was not a real bullet, but a bullet they used like in the Clint Eastwood movies. Also, the people are being shot and then they fall to the ground, but most likely these actors will survive because there were just blanks in the gun. So either he's having a bulletproof vest or Jack Ruby is using blanks, or both at the same time. You can't prove, but you cannot disprove that. Because you cannot trust the government. You see, you've all been set up. If you have been set up with the assassination of Kennedy, what would you convince that you won't be set up with the so-called killing of Lee Harvey Oswald? Taking all the numerology, taking all that strange material of pictures and movies. I'm not convinced. I'm convinced that Lee Harvey Oswald was the victim right from the start with the 666 indication, and we know that he served the CIA. So he could not speak freely with the press because he was a CIA asset, low rank or not, don't care, but he knew more than he could tell you. And so to prevent him from saying anything, they would have to get rid of him. And when he was officially dead, nobody would answer a question. Because Jack Ruby, on the other hand, was being convicted as his murderer. So when he was convicted as his murderer, why should people doubt about the murder of Lee Harvey Oswald? Oh, I know it takes much brain to think about that, and maybe you would think that I'm a crazy lone nut. But you see, this is government officials here, and they are playing tricks on us, I think. I think they're playing tricks on us. You don't see a bullet, you don't see a wound. You don't see nothing. You only see a yelling and a shot. That's it. And it will get worse. But first of all, you see that these people, like in the Zapruder movie, they present you a frame and they frame you. That is what you're supposed to see. You don't see the ignition of the bullet from the other perspective. You just see a blocked view. You just see two pictures. You just see meaningless movies where people react strangely. Now, the only one who's acting or is acting naturally is that guy here. Let's move on. If Lee Harvey Oswald should not make it to court, it's the same case as Osama bin Laden, by example, 9/11 reference, then he was being officially sacrificed to the ruler of the zodiac or the sun god. That's the same thing that happened to JFK. He was also being sacrificed to Osiris, which is the sun god. And that's the same what these pyramids are for. These are in Mexico or somewhere else. Chichen Itza, the Mayas, the Aztecs. They carried their victims on top and then they burned and sacrificed them. Yeah, that's where the sun does shine, on the top. Yeah, so you won't have any chance to escape from a pyramid on top. That's what people don't see when they see a pyramid. They see a pyramid, oh yeah, that's been according to astronomical zodiac and fixed stars. Yeah, that's correct. But you see, these are sacrifices. These are pagan images and idols and pagan temples. Yeah, yeah. And these people are more or less sitting ducks. Yeah, they don't know anything or they don't care. They only just care for a great picture. But do they care that people have been sacrificed thousands of years ago? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah? Because in the end, it's just a snake, which has been, or a Satan, so to speak, who is demanding sacrifices, human sacrifices. And the sun god is no exception, because the sun god is more or less the same as Satan. And the problem is that people got not having the knowledge of it from the ancient times. That's really a problem which has been depicted in Hosea 4:6.
Yeah, that's right, Michael. That's for sure. And Hosea 4:6 reads, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me."
Yeah, it's just like the golden calf, you see. It's everywhere. It's all around the world. But people don't care. They're just having a good time. Making 666s, it's just having a good time. You see, that's all of them. You shall be as gods. Of course, they are attracted by pagan images, idols, and temples, because they don't serve God. It's very obvious. And coming back to Clint Eastwood, yeah, you see, all these movie makers, filmmakers, have been dominated in Hollywood by the Vatican since centuries, or no, not centuries, since decades, sorry. And the father of JFK also, they had a movie company going on. So this guy with the famous music of Clint Eastwood movies, and so he's also in touch, or he was in touch because he has been deceased a few years ago. Yeah, he's also in touch with the Vatican. I made a German session about that, yeah, because they are just all celebrating death in their movies. That's another Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, with the famous music, which I will present you now. It does not look like that bad when the music is coming in. It looks very funny, like a funny comedy movie. But there is somebody who has a rope around his throat. Don't think that you want to exchange with that guy. Yeah, but that's how the cookie crumbles, actually. Yeah, that's the power of movies and the power of music. That you hear a shot, you see a gun, and you assume that, oh yeah, it must have that must be the killer. But you can't say anything for sure, because everybody is playing tricks on you. Yeah? Every director, every music maker who is world famous, be it Clint Eastwood, be it Sergio Leone, be it Ennio Morricone, yeah, all these people, they serve mammon. They serve mammon. The papal cardinal Gianfranco Ravaschi for the death of Ennio Morricone. You see, all these people are making that kind of movies. Kill Bill, the Bruce Lee reference. Yeah, it's all about killing, violence, fight, hatred. Yeah, it's not about love. Yeah, Clint Eastwood made some love movies, but the majority of his career, yeah, that's what the people actually want to like to see. They want to see violence. Yeah, they are living in an Antichrist spirit, and they want to see Antichrist movies in the Antichrist world. So that's it. Yeah. So twice in his career he had to cry. He said that the famous composer Ennio Morricone, it was at the ending of his movie called Mission. I said, ugh. Mission is sending abroad as an ancient origin of Jesuits, and when the meeting with Pope Francis. Yeah, sure. You see, all these people serve the papal agenda. Yeah. It's German here, but you see that it's just a papal agenda. Yeah, people, they are longing for Antichrist movies. Once Upon a Time in the West. Ennio Morricone. Yeah. Or he's composing in the United Nations headquarters, selling more than 50 million records, being played by Metallica even, or Motorhead. You see that's been played by Celine Dion with her very strange fashion label. One World, New World Order. Come on. It's all the big setup here. You won't find the truth. Yeah, all these people are in one agenda. If they are making music or movies for Westerns, if they are making music for horror movies like The Exorcist, this is not Mike Oldfield now with his Tubular Bells, which was in the first part, but it's just the second part, the heretic, the music of Ennio Morricone. It's all devilish, yeah? It's always the same. It's always the same. So I will skip it now. And I try to use common sense. I'm no professional researcher. I don't write books about that. I just try to help people to see what is really going on in our world. And Luke 4 as well as Matthew 4 are stating that Satan has been given all the riches in this world and all the power and glory, and whomever will fall down and worship him, they will get their share. Yeah, so all the prominent people around this so-called planet, which is not a planet, they have all to serve Satan. If the name is Bob Dylan, if the name is Bono, if the name is Clint Eastwood, I don't care. It's just also always the same. So that happened to be, according to the Dallas Times reporter Bob Jackson, after the shooting, Oswald had no trace of blood on his clothing, nor was any blood seen on the floor or on any of the officers. According to Dr. Charles Baxter's private conversation with Brian David Anderson, Oswald arrived at the hospital with blood all over him, and the wound was inflicted from below, the trajectory having traveled upward, damaging vital organs. This can only mean Oswald worked with Ruby to simulate the murder, as Oswald yelled and fell to the floor immediately after the blank shot. This act eliminated any danger to nearby Dallas policemen involved in the plot. Upon loading unconscious Oswald into the ambulance, no blood was seen on his sweater, according our eyewitness. Once on the way to the hospital, Oswald was shot inside the ambulance by the CIA's Dallas policeman, thus inflicting the upward wound. To ensure massive internal bleeding of Spellman's CIA patsy, Oswald must have been vigorously pumped by his murder. Meanwhile, back in the basement of the Dallas Police Department, the second crime scene was never cordoned off, nor was Elm Street, preventing any future credible forensic investigation. The source: Contract on America, the mafia murder of President John F. Kennedy. I had that impression before I was handed over that article. But it is quite logical, because why would you risk to injure policemen and other people and being injured yourself? Yeah, you see that if you are an assassin, a regular assassin, Brad, you would have to expect that the Dallas police is shooting back at you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's not happening in a grocery store. It is happening in the Dallas Police Department. Yeah, you see that the people, by not reacting and by not being armed, you see that it's all staged. It has to be, because the risk of hurting somebody so-called innocent or a bystander or a ricochet would be much, much, much too high. Sure, when you fire from point blank, but you see that maybe you slip. by moving forward. Yeah, you slip on a slippery surface or what. Maybe you got a bad day. Maybe somebody is handing your arm and you've been not concentrated. What else? You've been blinded, or maybe there's a flashlight appearing from some photograph. You see that so many things can happen. So it would be too risky to go into this kind of a set. Yeah. So I think that he was not shot at that time. If he was shot, then he was shot later on, because you don't see any kind of blood on the pavement, on the stretcher. You don't see it. You simply don't see it. Yeah. This is one rare picture of Oswald on the stretcher. See any blood? See any blood? You see, it could be out of a James Dean movie here. Know what I mean? You see that where is the difference between a Clint Eastwood movie when somebody has been shot and falling to the floor, and now Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald? For me, it's the same.
Yeah.
As per statement of eyewitness reporter Bob Jackson, there was no blood visible on Oswald. Years later, Police Chief Jesse Curry, high alert here, because Jesse Curry is a high-ranking Freemason. So what do we expect from Freemasons? We don't have any proof that Oswald fired the rifle, and never did. It's, of course, relating to the JFK assassination. Nobody's yet been able to put him in that building with a gun in his hand. Oswald was a patsy, sure. Yeah, absolutely spot on. Sure, but that would not explain that situation. You see that if somebody would die within 2 hours after the shooting, I would expect a huge amount of blood. I would expect that. So maybe that's just me. Maybe you all get along with the official explanation. Yeah. But how can he shoot to the stomach when the arms of Oswald, I don't know. You see, you can't see anything clearly, and I think that is on purpose that he's wearing a black sweater. By the way, he was also in Dealey Plaza when JFK was assassinated, and according to eyewitnesses, he drove also to Parkland Hospital when JFK had arrived then. Yeah, so he's an FBI informant. You see, FBI informant. Yeah, where did the FBI got the tip that Oswald could be assassinated? Huh? When he was an FBI informant. Oh, really? Is it that hard? Is it that hard? Can't be that hard. Yeah, it's all set up by the FBI. So, Brad, just one question. Maybe you remember from the former session that who was running the FBI on that time?
Yeah. Oh, you're really asking me questions.
J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover, that was. Yeah, and he was a 33-degree Freemason. And he was serving so-called under 8 American presidents. Yeah, so he was the number one guy who had to get rid of any evidence. And he was more or less the boss of Jack Ruby. It's so simple. Wow. Yeah. And he was also the boss of the Dallas police station. Of course, the official boss is Jesse Curry, but if Jesse Curry is a 33-degree Freemason or a high-ranking Freemason, then the FBI is the authority on top of the hierarchy of the Dallas Police Department, so that his master of the police department is also J. Edgar Hoover. So what do you expect from all this quantity stuff? Yeah, you won't find the truth, because in that Antichrist world you have to reckon that everybody is lying to you, because the big majority of people is in the Antichrist spirit. So you have to have a translator, which is not only the Bible, but your common sense, because your common sense, if you are a Christian, must be fed and led by the Holy Spirit. Which means the Dallas police radio transmission of that day is nothing else but Freemason radio. It's Freemason radio. Don't ever expect the truth. They will bombard you with useless information. Yeah, because this is just channel 1. What shall convince me that they are not using channel 2, 3, 4, 5, or maybe 18? What shall convince me? Yeah. You see, you will be led by your nose through the ring your entire life. If you don't get it, that you will be distracted and you will not get the information. When you look at the things that have been presented to you, you have to look at the things with another approach. You have to look at the things with a biblical standpoint. And then you know that everybody is more likely lying to you. So you have to find out the truth on your own, which I try to do. On 12/18, an epileptic seizure then happened on 100 block North Houston Street, which is exactly the last right-hand turn that JFK has ever did from Main Street to Houston. And that when 12 or 13 minutes before the assassination was happening, then this epileptic seizure occurred. Oh, what a coincidence. Huh? And you can go that into several things, all the worldly things. I'm just doing that you really see that when you really dug deep, you find the things and you don't believe in any coincidences then. Yeah, there were fake ambulance calls before the date of the assassination, and time and location of Jerry's fit are certainly suspicious. Yeah, sure. A coincidence that it happened 12, 13 minutes before an epileptic seizure in Dallas in Didi Plaza. Oh, really? If you believe in coincidences, then please change the channel. Go on to cat movies, cat videos, or what else. I don't care. But there are no coincidences because everything that has been presented to you has been censored already. So you won't find the truth. It is just useless. It is useless. Yeah. Sure, they will present you with the Oswald in the Dallas, Texas theater. But why? Or another theater. But why? Because you had to go into the theater that you have another resemblance to Abraham Lincoln being shot in the theater. Yeah. So it is just a setup. It is just a ritual. It is nothing less and nothing more. Yeah. It's interesting to go in this, but you see that you won't find the truth in there. You won't find the truth because everybody can be bought. Everybody can be a fake. Everybody can be an agent. Yeah. I cannot know if the ambulance driver is authentic or if he's also been an agent. I don't know. Yeah. So if I go into this, then you see that I would be very stupid because there are so many informations out there, and I want to have quality on top of quantity. That means I have to rely on the facts, and the facts is that I don't see any bullet, I don't see any wound, I don't see any blood. So I'm not convinced that Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald. Yeah, of course he shot him, but maybe with a blank. Yeah, but he did not kill him. I don't see any real evidence that he killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Yeah. If you know that Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA asset, low rank, and that Jack Ruby was an FBI informant, had ties with the mob, then it was not just the usual killing. It can't be. And all this is all staged. The House Select Committee on Assassination, this is all BS for adults. This is all the theater. Yeah, they have said that, oh yeah, we heard 4 shots instead of 3 because of a dictabelt recording from some Dallas motorcade or motorbike guy. You see, this is all BS. This is all BS. It is BS. Yeah, I have to listen to an old 60-year-old tape with much noise in it. It sounds like... yeah. Yeah, really, I have had to listen to that. Yeah, and then you have to find out how many shots occurred, and later on you see that you find oh yeah, that is the dictabelt recording from Channel 1, from the official channel that the Freemason Radio, Dallas Police Radio has presented to you. Okay, you got also then the problem that Channel 2 was reserved for special events. Haha. So it does not make any sense. And please tell me, Brett, nobody can know on which channel then also Lyndon B. Johnson was when he was accused by Senator Yarborough that he was ducking down when the shooting or when they arrived at Elm Street, ducking down and having a walkie-talkie in his hand and whispering to somebody else. Yeah, you won't find that recording anywhere. And that won't be released by the Information Act.
Yeah, freedom of information.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it is absolutely of no use to call any experts like the sound designer Leo Chalukian on his analysis of the JFK assassination tape, because you don't know if that assassination tape is correct and is valid and is authentic in the first place. Come on. Really, that is all you have. You see, they are having a special division here in the secret services that they can distract people, and they will hand over for information from time to time to time. People will look in the direction that the secret service and the government wants them to go, and then people will be interviewed, and documents will be released, and books will be written. And that is all on purpose, because the real ritual and the real happening shall be excluded from the public. This is esoteric stuff, and esoteric stuff don't belong to the public. Yes, until we publish this and other videos. That's a problem. You see that the majority of people and researchers are only doing their job. They just want to sell books. They just want to have a good life, and then don't want to dig any deeper, because it will prevent them from selling books, because the majority of people won't believe me. They will believe the sound designer.
They will go back to the old upsetting the apple cart story, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. You got to be a good merchant of the earth, don't you?
Yeah.
In order to play with
absolutely futile, because if you know the outcome of it, that this guy also has an Oscar win for the Academy Award for Platoon. You see, this is all. They are just playing inside the system. These are just system players, of course. You see, I'm not a system player. I'm just outside it, and I'm looking at it on top from the bird's eye perspective. And you see that he said, according to the Channel 1 recording of the House Select Committee on Assassinations, that there were 4 shots. Yeah, okay. But the problem is that later on they found out that there are sirens on that recording 2 minutes after the alleged shooting. But the problem is that most likely they were from a motorbike which was stationed at the Dallas Trademark, where JFK was supposed to held his famous Solomon speech, which he never could because he was killed before. So that recording most likely took place on another spot. So what do you need an expert for? Just to undermine your hypothesis, which has absolutely no value. This is quantity. This is worldly stuff. This is exoteric. This is just to entertain the people, to get rid of any quality research, and just to maintain the people into not believing the Bible and not believing their own eyes. And there are also at least 10 Channel 2 recordings, or Channel 2 or maybe Channel 3, I don't know. So you see that it does not make any sense. I'm not doing it in English because it just makes no sense. So it won't be the actual authentic recording. It will never be released by the Dallas police. Come on, these are Freemasons. These are guarded and supervised by the FBI. You won't get any real evidence by them. This is just to fool the people. 90% of the bystanders of Dealey Plaza said they indicated 3 shots or less. Jim Bowles said that that was a Dallas Trademark tricycle there, positioned there. And that would also explain the sound of the sirens of the emergency ambulance, etc. So it makes no sense. What makes sense is to think about that. Why did they use Lee Harvey Oswald, or why he had been used? Because it was a CIA asset. He was being supervised by the CIA. Remember that he was going to the Soviet Union. Everybody who went to the Soviet Union and came back with a wife was, of course, under surveillance. Because that was the time when communism was absolutely no-go in the United States. So I really believe that the CIA was watching Oswald for several years. Actually, he was being handed over from one CIA handler to another CIA handler. We will sure come to this also. or what's happening now. Yeah. And Oswald was also being occupied in a company who made maps for the military. So come on, all coincidence, huh? It's absolutely coincidence. It must be coincidence. Yeah. You see, there is a official CIA disinformation controversy for the September 11 attacks. Yeah, of course, because they had determined that Osama bin Laden was behind the September 11 attacks. They had determined. They had not the proof. They had determined. Yeah, so they are infallible, Brett. If they say that, that he was
right.
the guy, he was the guy. He had to be the guy.
Wait a second. Didn't the Pope in 1870 declare he was infallible? If I can reckon.
Yeah. So the CIA had more than 70 years' time to do the same. Yeah, because they were only created after the Second World War. So, yeah.
Well, you got me thinking there, Michael. And just remind everyone, this is a carpenter you're talking to over here who's 7 hours away from Michael. But you got me thinking that, how the Federal Reserve System, they say, is not federal and not part of the U.S. and is a privately owned investment, that was, we don't need to get into that right now. But if you think about the Federal Bureau of Investigations, there's probably nothing federal about it at all. It's like the Central Intelligence Agency. Intelligence for who, Michael? The Antichrist, I think, is the answer. Intelligence of the Antichrist. So if you have the Bureau of the Antichrist, Federal Bureau of Antichrist Investigation. If you just fill in the blanks, think for yourself. It's pretty easy, like you say, Michael. Keep it simple, stupid. That's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to really bring that back. But the moment you start going that far with the American people, they lose it on you. It's like telling them that, we never landed on the moon. It's all been staged. It's the same damn thing.
Yeah, they are in Disney's Magic Kingdom. Yeah, it's really, they are, the entire life people are spending inside Disney Dome or what else, inside the Truman Show. They want to have that way, you see. They only got that life. Yeah, so they have to make the best out of it. And if you pretend you'll be the wisest, the smartest, the most intelligent, the beautiful woman on this earth, you see that they feel good.
Well, it's the illusion of feeling good, Michael. It's not.
If you tell them the truth, they will reject it because you spoil them.
Of course, every time.
Yeah, you spoil their identity, or you spoil their view of things, and they don't want to hear that because they will be afraid that the government is not responsible.
Michael, you're reminding me of something that I was looking into earlier. On the Etymology Online website, when you type in hypocrisy and you read about hypocrisy, the etymology of the word, and there's a little quote from someone who said a long time ago that the word hypocrisy, I'm sorry, it's so early in the morning here, my brain hardly works. But yeah, that word hypocrisy has such an incredible way of masking the truth. This is kind of how this dance of life, and when you live in the flesh and you think in the terms of the fleshly spirit, because I'm assuming all the listeners we have are born again Bible believers. Now, there might not be all of our listeners that are there. There might be people on the fence trying to figure out, what's this series all about? What's so important about the Bible? Well, You see, we take the mask off, you know, this whole idea of hiding your identity and concealing the truth is something that's been deeply, deeply implanted into us when we were children. And we have to take an assessment of everything all over again when you enter into a born-again, Bible-believing life. It's a new life. Yes, you are born again because your spirit is convicting you of everything you've done your entire life in that sinful, wicked mindset. It's an entirely different view. So if you're not joining us yet, I feel sorry for you. But at the same time, I can boldly say that this type of hypocrisy is almost impossible to get rid of until you've really recognized the validity of the Holy Spirit in a very sober light. So you can go around and play your games and have fun, but at the end of it all, you're going to be held to account and you're going to be found out a liar. So at the end of this etymology little paragraph, it says something about the unvarnished truth. The unvarnished truth. Imagine if we were given the unvarnished truth all the time. I think people would be shocked. They would be shocked and stunned how evil this world is. Yeah, there we go, Michael. At the bottom of this paragraph, here we go. Hypocrisy is the art of affecting qualities for the purpose of pretending to an undeserved virtue. Because individuals and institutions and societies, mind you, secret societies, most often live down the suspicions about them, hypocrisy and its accompanying equivocations underpin the conduct of life. Imagine how frightful truth unvarnished would be. Unquote. Benjamin Martin in France, 1938. My, that is an interesting little topic there. How frightful truth unvarnished would be. And that's what we do, Michael. That's what we're doing on your series, Conspiracy. We're telling the people straight up, hey, you know, we're born again believers here on this I want to say documentary almost, but it's not a documentary, it's a study. And, you know, Michael and I gather on the Sabbath and we step aside from our worldly point of view to take a look at these topics in the light of the truth, the unvarnished truth of the Bible, yes. And, you know, I think that's kind of the real transition, Michael, from the worldly realm into the prophetic realm and the understanding that Christ created all things through his sacrifice in this life. Speaking of the eternal life, Christ died for you, dear listener, so that you could possibly be written, have your name written in the book of life, as it says in the scriptures. So that's really what we're coming down to. And the reason I was looking into this hypocrisy is because there's a speech that George W. Bush made in 2017 in his George W. Bush Institute, and it was put out around the world on the media, and I just couldn't believe it when he said the word hypocrisy in that speech. A noteworthy hypocrisy. It just could not leave my mind. Michael, I just had to think about that. Why would a United States president during the time of the World Trade Center attacks make a speech about this country and possibly the entire world, announcing to the entire world that, things are not what they seem, especially when you can see right through these types of rhetoric that these people make, because they do it with such pride and arrogance. Like, they're so cool and it's so great. No, it's wicked as hell, and a lot of people are dying because of this. And we're going to let this pass? That's where I got to draw the line, Michael. I can't stay silent on this anymore. I have to draw the line. Someone has to give an unvarnished truth. And that's us. That's what we're all about, Michael.
Okay, Brett. Then I won't say that we are hypocrites. We are just searching the truth. And it's very hard to search the truth because we are not making it easy, as the CIA does. Because the Counterterrorism Center had determined that Osama bin Laden was behind. Yeah. So where is the proof? Where is the court? Where is the jury?
That's right. Well, if we trust this intelligence, we're trusting the Antichrist. Hmm. And that's what this world does. It trusts the Antichrist. Yeah, what did the Antichrist give us, Michael? The nation state of Israel.
Yeah, that's a problem.
He gave us dispensationalism too. And all these new Bibles. And where's the old Bible? Where do you find the old King James Bible? In the trash can? Yeah, they just trashed it all, Michael. And they expect us to believe the lie. Sorry to interrupt, but
it's just in the book of prophecy and in the book of Revelation, it's been written that there will be these famines and pestilences and earthquakes and all the things. Yeah, because I think that otherwise many people will not see that it's what the world is going down. They just think that it's going on forever and ever. But I think that has much to do with that the world has been falling away. People have been falling away. This is a lost world. You see a fallen world with fallen mankind. What do we expect? It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so the so-called Reformation was just an intermediate approach. Yeah, but it was just a little bit of hitting the brake pedal. Yeah? But now it's in full force. It's in full swing again. The dumbing down of people, the lost morals. No, it's also the dark ages are coming again.
Oh, they certainly are. They're here, Michael. It's no doubt in my mind that the spiritually dark ages, yes, it's not anything like it was before. It's entirely different. And it's a spiritual magnitude, Michael.
If you see that comparison with Osama bin Laden, for example, of course, he was a Muslim. Yeah, so the United States had the means that they were terrorizing Afghanistan and Iraq because it's also a religious war. But nevertheless, you see that officially Osama bin Laden is dead since 2011, but we know about the video of Benazir Bhutto from session 17 that he died in 2007. And a few more time later, Benazir Bhutto, the former prime minister of Pakistan, was assassinated as well. It's not funny.
No,
but
that's
maybe
true.
maybe
It's true.
either Mr. Osama bin Laden was already dead or has been shot dead twice. I don't know. Or there are several Osama bin Laden. So which Osama bin Laden has been shot in 2007 and which Osama bin Laden had been shot in 2011? If you think that I'm now totally insane, let me present you something that I found in Saddam Hussein, the former Iraqi leader. I found in a German news article. Yeah, so this is from the Spiegel, which means a mirror. Yeah, it says the body doubles of Saddam Hussein, the Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein, will be represented at official appearances from at least 3 body doubles. According to research of the second German television program, men have been made similar to the dictator through operations, so medical surgery, cosmetical surgery. Yeah, so I'm not making a joke here. This is just from official German source from 2002. Yeah, September the 26th, 2002. Body doubles of Saddam Hussein. So what shall me convince that Osama bin Laden had not also body doubles? Or maybe Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald? Or who else? Who else? You see, when I come up to so-called researchers like Annie Jacobson, they have a chapter 28 in their book, Surprise, Kill, Vanish, on CIA paramilitary armies, etc. There was one chapter called The Hidden Hand. I said, ugh.
Oh, jeez.
It's just Freemasons.
Yeah.
The hidden hand. Yeah. Yeah, it's always the same. Yeah, it's like Stalin, Napoleon Bonaparte, Karl Marx, George Washington. All these people are having their ties behind the scene. Yeah. So he said in that book, it's been stated here, Tenet, so the CIA director, former director, told the president in his inner circle, interesting, that the counter-terrorist center had identified Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda as being behind the attacks and that a hardline group of Islamic fundamentalists called the Taliban were providing the terrorist organization with a safe haven inside Afghanistan. Yeah. They told that the counter-terrorist center had identified. Yeah, so the American audience and American president, they heavily rely on the Secret Service, and they say, yeah, we determined that Osama bin Laden was the source behind the attacks, then a whole country has to be attacked. That's their kind of justice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now you see the Federal Bureau of Investigation connected the hijackers to Al-Qaeda after 9/11. Interesting that one of the flights 11, Freemason number, with a maximum capacity, etc., 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 lifts from Boston, Massachusetts, where Kennedy was born. But that's just a thing that we have to call all the facts. When Bill Cooper had his famous speech about 10 weeks before the assassination the attacks on September 11 happened, he said, whatever is going to happen that they are going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it. Mm-hmm. Therefore, he was being shot about 2 months later in November the 5th, especially it would be November the 6th. Remember the 6th of November, the gunpowder plot. The CIA recreated Osama bin Laden. They recruited him, they trained him, they found his leadership. They are now using him to help bring about the world government by making him the big boogeyman because they can't use Saddam Hussein anymore. Mm-hmm. And he made an interesting remark that when the entire CIA was not able to find that guy for almost 10 years, strangely enough, a reporter, I think it was on CNN or so, he could find him in an Afghanistan hole, in a mountain somewhere. Okay. So
yeah,
what all the
right.
intelligence service was not capable of, one lonely nut of a reporter could do. Question once again, Brett. With which Osama bin Laden was he talking to?
Good question.
Yeah. You see, it's a mess. Sometimes he's got a white beard, sometimes he's got a black beard. You see that you can put on a mask, you can put on a false beard. and nobody would care. No? No. 4 days before the United States election, they broadcasted excerpts from a video of so-called Bin Laden addresses the people to the United States. So what a coincidence! 4 days before the election. Yeah. All coincidences. No, this is all staged. This is a big boogeyman. Yeah. Where comes all the disinformation from? One certain source or famous source is the so-called Operation Mockingbird, with the interesting claim of the former director of the CIA, William Casey. He says, quote, "We know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." So CIA distorting reality worldwide. So this is a program. And interesting enough, I looked it up, and yes, they said that this is a secret project of the United States Foreign Minister to influence the media. Over 400 agents and so-called journalists are in many press agencies. And I don't have to go into that because I think that everybody knows about Operation Mockingbird. CIA is denying any operation, but it has been proven in the meantime. So it has been proven. Even on Wikipedia, it has been proven. So there's been disinformation and special tactics. There's a book called The CIA in Hollywood, How the Agency Shapes Film and Television, which further documented the CIA's efforts at manipulating its public image through entertainment media since the 1990s. Oh, I think that is incorrect. Must have been much before. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, you see, it's all disinformation service. That's one of the few ingredients of that terrible documentation, Everything's a Rich Man Trick, which would lead you into believing that the oil industry and the people with money is behind the Kennedy assassination, which is not correct. And you see that the press is controlled. Also, the alternative press is controlled. So when there is such strange new things like from CJR.org that in the second half of 1962, JFK, he tried to kill 2 NBC and CBS news specialists, you see, you have to believe everything. Yeah, because once again, it's a disinformation program. You don't know if that source which I was presenting you here, if that source is a disinformation page or is an information page. We cannot know that. Disinformation program. And that quote must be legit, because it traces back to the late political researcher and radio show host Mae Brosse. She was a host of the show Dialogue Conspiracy. But she's not the only person, because on Quora there was also somebody who said that, oh yeah, that is a valid quote. She says, "I am the source for that quote, which was indeed said by CIA Director William Casey at an early February 1981 meeting of the newly elected President Reagan, where we all know of that he's got a holy alliance with the Pope. Reagan, Pope, not Ope, Pope. Alliance, holy, with all the typos. Not Reagan, Reagan, babe. So the Time magazine, Time means Father Time means Saturn, by the way, and has been controlled by Sovereign Military Order of Malta, said there was a holy conspiracy of holy alliance of the United States government as well, together with the Vatican's Pope. If they tell you, you have to believe that. But you see that's the big problem. And on that, President Reagan, Mr. Casey, report to him what they have learned about the agencies in the first couple of weeks of the administration. The meeting was in the Roosevelt Room in the West Wing of the White House, not far from the Cabinet Room. I was present at the meeting as assistant to the chief domestic policy advisor to the president. Casey, so CIA, first told Reagan that he had been astonished to discover that over 80% of the intelligence that he analyzed the side of the CIA produced was based on open public sources like newspapers and magazines. As he did to all the other secretaries of the departments and agencies, Reagan asked what he saw as his goal as director for the CIA, to which he replied with this quote. So Reagan asked him what was his task, and Casey said, well, it is just disinformation. which I record in my notes of the meeting as he said it. Yeah, and that is some certain Barbara Honegger. Yeah, so he said that in response to what he saw as his goal as being a CIA director. Yeah, disinformation. Yeah, so it seems that it could be correct. So disinformation is everywhere. Yeah. Newsweek magazine reported the covert operation was designed to overthrow Gaddafi, so the general of Libya, through a disinformation campaign to embarrass him, creation of a counter-government to challenge his leadership, and a paramilitary campaign. Yeah? So that is CIA. So much for freedom of information and so much for the truth. Huh? There's no truth in them. Yeah? Yeah? You see that you can go into every nitty-gritty CIA disinformation campaign. Misleading tactics, Washington. Trusted CIA sources have told my associate Ron McRae that the foreign press, in the words of one insider, quote unquote, is already being manipulated directly. Yeah? So where is the free press, freedom of speech? It's baloney. It's baloney.
Oh, is that related to Bologna, Michael? You know, the Bologna virus?
Bologna?
Well, we can't say the real word.
Ah, I see. I was just a little bit astonished at the moment. Yeah.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to throw a little humor in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another quote of Will Casey is, now along comes Bill Casey, the doddering CIA director, with the argument that the government has the right to mislead the public. Yeah, what else is it in the JFK assassination or the shooting of Lee Harvey Oswald? I can imagine that you have suspected something else about the assassination, but that is my viewpoint, that the killing is not the way it used to be and to be portrayed in the usual media. Also, there is mind control or mentale Kontrolle, because usually it has been attributed to the German Wehrmacht, the German army in the Second World War, to mind control manipulation. So there is the K in that. Yeah, you see, usual mind control would be MC Ultra in American or English, but it's just MK. So it's just a quote that it's maybe from a German source, or maybe there's also some other hint because K happened to be the 11th letter of the alphabet. Oh, it's always the same.
Wow.
So who's...
Yeah, like the KKK, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yeah, so you see that you won't find the truth because there is a majority of people working behind the scenes that you don't get the information you need. Yeah. It's just Jesuit Hollywood from Sean Wilcox. Yeah. In Jesuit Hollywood, he says that Fox was now run by Winifred Willie Sheehan, an Irish-American papist. Only one other major studio was run by another Irish-American papist, and that was FBO under Joseph P. Kennedy. Happened to be the father of JFK. What's the book? That book was Jesuit Hollywood. Yeah, and we know that Kennedy had a Jesuitic Douay-Rheims Bible. The Church of Rome was to dominate Hollywood for a very long time to come. Yeah, ever since. So you see that it's to go onto a usual documentary. I can highly warn you, because you will be framed into their view. You have to use common sense and don't let them explain you what happened, because you have to ask everything. You have to ask anything, and you have to doubt everything, and you can't trust anybody. You can't trust anybody. Sure, it is suspicious, but you see, that was not the thing what really happened, what took place. It is just to distract the people that now said, oh, we won't get any trial because the highest likely assassin has been shot too. How convenient, huh? Yeah, so this is all baloney here. This is a theater. This is a stage. It's like a Spencer Tracy movie in the court. It's always the same. Yeah. It is disinformation service. It is disinformation. This is also disinformation. Because a number of people with rifles do not mean that actually they hit Kennedy, right? Maybe that was the annual meeting of the hunters. And they had a bunch of rabbits here on the Dealey Plaza, hiding behind the trees. No, I'm joking on purpose, you see.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think that now you know everything by looking at a documentary, that they have a direct connection to the assassination of your president, then you have to draw into your consideration the epileptic seizure as well. Because if you think that everything has to do something to do with the assassination, then you look what's happening before that, what after that, beside that, similar to that, symbology, numerology. And then you get quite another result, I think, unless to this 35th episode. Yeah, so this is our distraction here. Illuminati is a distraction in information agency, been founded by the Jesuitical Catholic professor
Adam Weishaupt,
of Adam Weishaupt. At the age of 24, you receive your grade as a professor. Come on, it has nothing to do with your abilities. It has everything to do with your connections. Illuminati is just a spoof organization. It's just spoof. Yeah, Skull and Bones. It's always the same. Yeah, it's always the same. If you use the German SS or Skull and Bones, they have it's death. Yeah, you see, it's death. It's Skull and Bones. It's death. Keep it simple. It's death. If you're a member of that society, you're not loving mankind. It's death. My. How hard is it? You got a symbol and you got the name. And you ask yourself, oh, I have to read the legislation of that. No, you don't have. You have to look at the symbolism, their names, numerology, and then you got it. Yeah. And if somebody is putting you on it, oh, you got a proof, but because we got a movie. Yeah, you see that my movie of Clint Eastwood is not a proof, but just a hint. Yeah. So when people are just putting out here that there is a Satanist behind it, yeah, but why don't you name them? Yeah. But I don't have to rely on any movies. I can name the people because I know who was in power at that time. And I know that the chief of the Dallas police must be J. Edgar Hoover, so a 33-degree Freemason. So it has nothing to do with the mafia, or not much to do with the mafia. Yeah. And when everybody of the royal family is a Freemason, I don't care, because not the royal family killed Kennedy. And Nazis and Skull and Bones and all pirates, yeah, they all have that symbol, yeah, sure, but not the pirates did not kill JFK. No, it was somebody else. Big money. No, it was not a money issue. Yeah, so you see that you have distraction all over again. It's an interesting documentary, but it won't tell you anything about the assassination of JFK. Because that is a highly regarded, over 1 million views documentary here, and it has been made very elaborately here, very professionally. I think that is also counterintelligence agency work here. Could be, because they don't tell you the truth. If somebody is looking up to the 6th floor window, and that is the wrong window because it is the left side window, but it happened on the right side window. But nonetheless, it looked like a high-powered rifle because it had a scope which looked in relation to the size of the rifle to be a big scope. Yeah, you see, I could use a water gun with a very big scope on that, but that won't prove that I shot the president. Yeah, if somebody is displaying a rifle on the window, then it was supposed to do so. If they would have wanted to hide it, then you won't have seen it. So you have seen it on purpose. Because today people said, oh, there's a guy with a gun with a big scope, must be a high-powered rifle. No. And it does not mean that on that high-powered rifle there was shooting somebody. And if somebody was shooting out of that rifle, it does not mean that they hit Kennedy. He could also hit the grass. You see, this is all disinformation program. Disinformation. It happened in a federal building on a Dealey Plaza in a religious temple. From Freemasons and a Freemason police chief with a Freemason FBI chief. Come on, how hard can it be? to suggest that it also was foul play. Now, we don't know that there were 8 riflemen. You're supposed to tell the audience that they have to believe that there were several riflemen there. That's the thing. This is all disinformation here. Yeah, of course, it must be the storm sewer. Yeah. We will go into this later on. And of course, there are people behind the scene. Yeah. There are people behind the scene. It's very interesting to know that I have read, I don't know if that is correct, on the evening before the assassination took place, it was not only Lyndon B. Johnson present on that day who said, next day the JFK, the Kennedys won't embarrass me again. But also there was a certain guy called Richard Nixon, who later then became president, as well as some other people who were in Dallas at that time, later became president. For example, George Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, and also a certain guy called Jacob Rubenstein. Ring a bell, Brett?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Ruby. How convenient and what a coincidence. My. Yeah. Yeah, of course, has to do something to do with the Vietnam War. What many people would tell you that the Vietnam War happened against communism, and official researchers will tell you that it happened for the drugs, to big money and so. And that's both not correct. Yeah, they can't tell you the real reason here. You see. This is a documentary being shown to 1 million people, which means that this is just for the exoteric people. They won't the only thing that they're interested in is who shot Kennedy, not why and who's behind, because then they would be scared. Huh? You can't scare the people. You can't tell them that there is a certain structure behind that. Yeah, you see that when you really see that kind of a soldier here, a young soldier, young, inexperienced lad. He's got on his helmet, he's got his ideology, his indoctrination called Make War Not Love. It is at the end of the 60s, maybe at the beginning of the 70s. Of course, then when the Club of Rome says, this is the end of the growth and we have to limit world's population because we got overpopulation here, which is absolutely unbiblical and satanic, of course, then this guy is indoctrinated. He says that to kill people is better than to create life. Yeah, make war, not love. So kill people instead of loving people and have a child and raise a family. Yeah, that's the doctrine of the people. It's a doctrine of the so-called Club of Rome. Or who could the Club of Rome be? How important? No, so how hard can it be? The Club of Rome. Rome. Yeah, so these guys were used to kill. This is a professional killer hired by the government. Yeah, paid by the government. To kill other people. So if somebody kills somebody else on the street for whatever reason, then he will be convicted. But if somebody in the dress of the United States Army has a helmet on, is in the Vietnam War and says make war not love, and he's killing people big time, he will be rewarded. That's the big difference. If you kill somebody officially for the government, then it is legal. Question. Are you then not a kind of murderer? Are you a better murderer? These people are being trained to kill without questioning, without debating. Yeah, you just go into the jungle and you just point your gun at somebody else who's moving and you just pull the trigger. And then you will be rewarded. You got a cross of honor or what else. And you are the war hero. Great. Yeah. So you are a contract killer then for the government. That's what you are.
Yep.
That is a satanic thought.
Yeah. We call it killing by proxy.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, the CIA also had a side. Yeah, because you see that Kennedy fired Allen Dulles. Yeah, and we know that now Lyndon B. Johnson was also had ties with several mafia, and so you see that. But it is just very simple here, that documentary. I won't go into this because it is just distraction for the general audience. That what he's displaying here did not happen. Yeah, and we will prove that. We will prove that. The only thing what happened, I think, is that JFK actually died. I think that is the most likely to assume that he died. Yeah, but once again, coming back to our first picture, yeah, compare the numerological values here, compare what happened here, what you see, what you saw, what you are supposed to see, and you come across that it's all a big movie, a big Hollywood movie. It's a Hollywood movie. You don't see anything, you suppose that you see something. That is just why the press is explaining you what happened, and you have to believe that. Huh? You have to believe that. Yeah. So he was the patsy from the beginning. He was also a young recruit. Yeah. He happened to serve in the Navy. Yeah. And he was then been sent, because he could speak Russian, he was been sent to the Soviet Union. So of course he was under surveillance. Yeah. We can go into endless details here, but let me tell you that official sources like the Dallas police chief, Jesse Curry, said, no, he didn't shoot anybody. Yeah. And there were no signs or traces of gunpowder on his chin, in his face. Yeah. So he could not have pulled the trigger, because you're not shooting the president just in midair. Yeah. You have to focus your target. You have then to use a scope or what else. Yeah. It's just endlessly going on. He could never ever have killed the president. Not happening. Yeah, you see, and so many useless information in here. It's always interesting. Interesting also that he applied to the Albert Schweitzer College in Switzerland. Oh, what did he do in Switzerland? He was going to Europe. Okay, interesting. Switzerland. Then he was going to the Soviet Union. Interesting. Also, that is the average guy, huh? He's going to Switzerland and then to the Soviet Union in 1959. Ooh, at the height of the communism against capitalism. Sure. Then he arrives in Finland, in Helsinki. Yeah. Yeah. Then he was interviewed by a guy probably acting for the KGB, for the Russian Secret Service. It's going on and on. Then he was proposed to a girl called Ella, but is turned down. And later on, he has been hospitalized for an ear infection. And out of a sudden, a Russian girl called Marina is a frequent visitor, and LHO, so Lee Harvey Oswald, proposes. Oh, that's very quick, huh? I got to know you. You look sweet. Oh, would you like to marry me? Yeah. And 3 weeks later, she accepts his marriage proposal. Oh, wow. What a lovely marriage must it be. They are then married 10 days later. Interesting. You have to believe all of that, because that is official documentation, official information of the government, of course. Huh? And then on February the 15th, his supposedly child, June Lee Oswald, is born. There are 292 days. So they have married at the last moment. And you have also to believe that, because these are official documents. I don't believe anything about it, because I know that when he was a CIA asset, everything can be faked. Very interesting that 1 year ago they arrived in Moscow to visit the embassy. Yeah, and then he met a certain Mr. George de Mohrenschildt. I said, ooh, not that guy. Yes, that guy, which has very close ties to not only the CIA. So George de Mohrenschildt, highly likely, was the handler of Lee Harvey Oswald, one of the handlers, directing him. And later on, of course, yeah, he worked in an employment company for military maps. Sure, you see that just coming from the Soviet Union, then you work for military maps. Yeah, what a coincidence, but it's all over the place. If you really use your common sense, yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah. Then he's meeting a certain Ruth Paine being what kind of an asset? You guessed it, CIA. And then the Oswalds moved into the home of Ruth Paine, CIA. Yeah. Then Lee Harvey Oswald is fired on the 1st of April, April's Fool. Yeah, he's been accused to have made an assassination at a general, which is highly unlikely. Yeah, then he was driven to the bus station because Lee Harvey Oswald did not have a driving license, and then he left for New Orleans. And what he did on New Orleans will be the content of the upcoming session. Not now, please, at the moment, because it's just too much for one session. And then he was renting a new post office box using a certain name called A.J. Heidel. That's very interesting. So what is the real name of that guy? Because he's got several passports, like a secret agent does, huh? And then on July the 6th, Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald is invited by his cousin Eugene to speak to a group of students at the Jesuit House of Studies in Mobile, Alabama, where Eugene is studying to be a priest. Waiting for Brett's comment.
What's this? His cousin Eugene?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a Jesuit priest. What did you expect?
Oh. Wow.
You
know, Michael, I just gotta say, I am just completely blown away by how many Catholics are, alive and well in this world. I mean, here in Minnesota, I never, ever even thought about it. Because I was thoroughly indoctrinated by the Lutheran Church, by my own doing, by my own consent. I'm not blaming them, but certainly they're part of the problem, aren't they? But wow, that's interesting that you bring this up, Michael.
Yeah. So these are just no coincidences, of course. It happened just 4 months before the assassination took place. Yeah, and then 5 days later, they split. Yeah, so his wife and he split. Interesting. July the 11th, they split. Yeah. And then on 27th of July, he speaks to the Jesuit group for 30 minutes on the subject of contemporary Russia and the practice of communism. Interesting, huh? Yeah. And I found a researcher, which I can only say that he's putting out also disinformation, called Ole Damgaard. He says that on the 29th of July, so 2 days later, Oswald had a so-called girlfriend, so maybe that was the reason why they split, called Judy. And he called Judy, and he said 2 days later after he spoke to the Jesuits, so please see the timeline here, July 27 and then 29th, he said that they targeted me, I'm going to be the patsy. At this moment, I'm busy with research on that thing, so I cannot back it up at the moment. But Judith is a very interesting source for any LHO research. Of course, she could also be an agent, so you can't trust anybody. Yeah. And we will go into this bio thing soon. So this Ole Damgaard, for example, he's a researcher from Denmark. And he said that is the Operation 40 in deep politics, which is ridiculous because the Operation 40 was just a CIA-sponsored hit squad. That's what they were. Drug trafficking, Watergate. Yeah, you see that is now when he's into this thing big time, you know that he's a disinformation researcher. He's not going to the real ground. So later on in this LHO timeline, he then accepts the job at the Texas Dallas bookstore depository. And Ruth Payne, every time you see Ruth, it's CIA. So the entire operation of LHO has been overseen by the CIA. Maybe that's also why it has been attributed to him for an unemployment check of 33. I don't know. Sometimes it's too much of neurology. Yeah. But then on October the 3rd, he was coming back from New Orleans to Dallas and checks in at the YMCA. And then he applies to the Texas Schoolbook Depository and is hired on October the 15th, so 6 weeks before the assassination, more or less. Yeah. Then he has a surprise birthday party in the Payne home, so CIA. And on October the 20th, Marina gives birth to Audrey Marina Rachel Oswald. That you have to believe that he has a daughter of about about 4 weeks. She was about 4 weeks old when the assassination took place. Yeah, so much so for the lone nut who had 2 children officially. Yeah, so everything can be faked. So then officially it was an FBI agent who made inquiries regarding Mr. Oswald. And Ruth was giving driving lessons. Yeah. And so the cookie crumbles. And then on the day of the assassination, Linnie Mae Randall sees LHO carrying a long paper bag. Oh, really? At the day of the assassination, he was carrying a long paper bag. Oh, maybe with the guitar, huh? Yeah. So it is so obvious. You see, that is so obvious that he was been playing the patsy. Yeah. If you prepare to shoot the president, you prepare some things. You prepare not to be seen. You prepare not to. Oh, really? It's too hilarious to go into.
Well,
this.
Yeah, I would think that the reference to a long paper bag would be alcohol, right?
I would suppose it's something which makes poof.
Oh, yeah, right. That too. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then he's been seen at the 6th floor near the windows. Yeah, I think he was supposed to be seen. Also, I don't think that you can see or locate or identify somebody really close when he's on the 5th floor, but I don't know. Yeah. And then a man has been seen at 12:18. A man has been seen. So what does that tell you? A man has been seen. Yeah, that's what they tell you. Oh, I've seen a man. Great. Yeah.
It's like a fuzzy image to me.
Yeah, it's just on purpose here, no? And then you see that in the official timeline, he assassinates President John F. Kennedy, and I think that's why I highlighted it in light green. Yeah, and then 90 seconds later, officially he is confronted in the lunchroom by patrolman Marion Baker. The problem is that is several stories below. Of course, he had forgot the rifle and the ammunition on top. Yeah, you don't get rid of the evidence after you have officially shot the president. How dumb must you be? Yeah, you were not so dumb to get a wife, to have 2 children, to get along to the Soviet Union, to speak Russian fluently, but you're too dumb to get rid of that damn gun and the ammunition and the blanks, which would then be part of your conviction as the assassin of JFK. And then, of course, you go to the bus, and then, of course, you go to the theater. That's the usual approach. If you are a presidential killer, you have to go to the theater and watch a war movie. Oh, and there are also several witnesses who claim that he was being transported afterwards, not by bus, but by a station wagon, from a certain called Miss Ruth Payne. So the CIA was playing cab driver for Lee Harvey Oswald. You see, it's just it's useless to go into this because we know that he cannot fire the weapon because he was not that much of a good shooter. The weapon was not capable of shooting that cadence, that frequency, and also that there were not gun smoke found on his face, etc., etc. So he was not there. And if he was there or was anywhere, it does not matter because he was just a patsy. Yeah, so we won't go into several sessions with Oswald. We need 2 sessions for him, actually. Yeah. And he did not also shoot Mr. Tippit. That has other purposes, but maybe you guess that's why Tippit was shot already. Yeah. So I'm skipping it because I want to end the session soon, but not before we have to make the reference here that allegedly he was being placed on the entrance here. And also officially he said in his testimony that he was out in front with Bill Shelley. But on the picture you see, I see more Mr. Lovelady as Mr. Oswald. If you are a researcher in a JFK case, every picture can be faked. But you see that does not prove a point because Lee Harvey Oswald could not have been shot the president. Yeah, so it makes no sense to go into Lee Harvey Oswald big time. It is just a minor fact, which is very interesting to see that the official governments, secret agencies, secret services, they can fake and manipulate any pictures, photos, and for especially documents. Yeah, you can have 4 passports officially, but you're not 4 people. You see, there is an agency behind it. Don't underestimate the agency. Yeah, they can fake any testimony. Out with Billy Shelley in front. Yeah, they can fake everything. What tells you, what convinces me that this is authentic here? Nobody, because these are notes of the Dallas Police Department. Freemasons. Once again, you see, it's all over the place. You can only use your eyes, ears, and your common sense and the Bible. That's it. Don't trust anybody. Do your own research. Do your own research, and then you come into play that it does not matter if this is Bill Lovelady, which looks more like Bill Lovelady, or Lee Harvey Oswald. It does not make any sense because he did not shoot the president. So we do not need any proof. Yeah, we have the so-called proof, the official statement of Jesse Curry, of the Dallas police chief. Yeah, and we know that it was a ritual. So I'm only going into the case of Lee Harvey Oswald to clarify that the agency is manipulating evidence big time and creating evidence and false evidence big time. That is the only reason why I'm going into Oswald, to really show you that you don't believe, please don't believe any official thing. Yeah, don't believe any official thing. He was not killed by that rifle. I'm quite sure. For several reasons. First, it was not the weapon that Lee Harvey Oswald owned. Yeah. Then, secondly, first it was called a Mauser, then it was called a Manicha Cancano, so they changed the rifle. And second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth, you see, that does not make any sense. This is the official theory that he was been killed by an Italian carbine. And everybody who is into our session must now know why it had to be this weapon. Oh yeah, 6 plus 5 is 11, I know. But there's also another reason, which is very obvious and which will come up in the later sessions. So of course, shooting the president with a $20 rifle with a big scope, yeah. Now you won't choose that rifle because it's a carbine. You see that every time you need much time between your shots. Yeah. So it does matter which kind of weapon it was, of course. That's a murder weapon. What does it matter? You see that it's a Wikipedia article. What does it matter? Oh yeah. What does the truth matter to Wikipedia? I have to ask you. Huh? What does it matter? Oh yeah. The truth doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter. So you will skip it here. And we won't go into the case of J.D. Tippit because he was more or less likely killed to have a body double for JFK. It was not the case that he was. I know that there were witnesses who claimed that Oswald shot the officer, but once more, I have to ask you, just wait for the second session on that Oswald chapter here. So you see, there are even people who are writing books about the second floor happening of the lunch of Lee Harvey Oswald. This is all time-consuming stuff. It's all time-consuming stuff because he did not shoot the president. And it's more interesting to look behind the scene why the president has been killed and what kind of evidence is there for. So this is all just information, anatomy, PDF, second floor. You get an award for that. Yeah, because you got awarded for the things to distract the people in the satanic world. Then you get an award. We will never get an award, Brett or me. We will never get an award.
Well, that's the thing. You know, your award is not of this world to begin with anyway. So it's, it's for those, it's reserved. The reward is reserved for those who are working for the Antichrist. We know that.
Yes, and then you know what the content of that work is. That is it will be a brilliant work, but it won't lead you to the truth, because otherwise
Yeah,
you
that's
won't
right.
have get an award for that.
Well, yeah, because what? They're just following the whole mindset of Lucifer, aren't they? Because he was brilliant, and he fell from heaven, and here he is, Satan, and all his fallen angels trying to convince you to worship him. And by proxy, that's what this is all about, Michael. By proxy. It's a proxy kind of world, isn't it? All of these things, all of these substitutes.
I want to show.
I mean, even the vicar of Christ, he's a substitute of Christ. The man of sin. Are we really going to live our lives according to the man of sin?
And that's an interesting point, Brett. That means that he's a replacement for Christ for the people who prefer to serve mammon than God.
There we go. See? It's really that simple. It really is. It truly is, Michael.
I was here back to NHO. They were officially refusing that he could contact an attorney, so he had no legal representation. So nobody wanted to have a case, the state, against Lee Harvey Oswald. So that I came up with the German session 2 days ago, which I made. I came up with the question during the session. I said, even if he would have been shot deadly or fatal by Jack Ruby, why should they have been treated him in the hospital? Or maybe you see that you can go further beyond that, and you can say that maybe everything was faked, and also every note was faked, that there was no shooting and no second shooting. And maybe Mr. Oswald just was standing up from his stretcher and went outside and received another identity. Don't blame me for any crazy theories. This is common practice for secret agents. I don't think that is as likely in that case, because he knew more than he could tell. But there may be cases when somebody has been shot out in the open and then receives a cosmic surgery, or what is it? A cosmic? No, what is it?
Cosmetic.
Yes, cosmetic. Yeah, a cosmetic surgery, and then receives another identity. It's always very legal, or he's under some testimony protection system. You receive another address, telephone, everything will be changed. You got to receive a new passport, etc. We are talking about a secret agencies here. We are talking about a very unknown world. So he was not supposed to tell anything before the court or so. So why should they have granted him legal representation when there would be no court at all? Why should they granted him medical surgery or anything else when he was supposed to die? So we do not know whom to trust. You can't trust anybody. You do not know. The only thing that I know is that it seems to me highly unlikely that it happened the way that the government or Wikipedia is telling you. That's the same case as in the assassination of JFK. So I doubt that claim. For me, there is no proof. Because everything can be faked by the authorities. Even if they present you a bullet, it's like the magic bullet. They also present you a magic bullet in the JFK assassination. What shall convince me that there is also not a fake bullet in the Jack Ruby Lee Harvey Oswald case? Fool me once, fool me twice. It's very strange. It is very strange. I don't believe anything now. We have to do our own conclusions according to the Bible, that we know that the majority of people are simply liars. And the Secret Service is the service of the snake, it's the service of Satan. It's Satan's service. And they will lie. One lie is bigger than the other. And it all seems very logic, because you are living in a system of lies. And it is not seen for the naked eye for the people who are just being used to live in a world of lies. If somebody is coming out and asking questions like we are doing and is putting out another theory, then people think that we are the loonies because they are not supposed and not used to think of their own or on their own. Yeah. I thought that it's very strange when Billy Joel, I really like Billy Joel for several music, Good Night Saigon, but Billy Joel made a song called We Didn't Start the Fire, and in 2 minutes and 42 seconds, he was making the lyrics here, JFK blown away, what else do I have to say? But the problem is that at that very moment here, Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby has been displayed here. I found that also very strange.
Yeah, that is really strange, isn't it?
Yeah. And LHO was also pronounced dead at Parkland Hospital. So the exact same hospital where JFK was 2 days ago. It's so strange. You don't believe anything. Yeah. And don't believe any researcher. Do your own research. Don't believe, please, Mr. Dammegard. Yeah, Mr. Dammegard says that Jimmy Files was the guy that shot fired from the grassy knoll. Oh, yeah, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, really? Oh, really? Yes, you got the truth. That's the same guy who's telling you the truth now. Yeah. I said, I'm friend with E. Howard Hunt's, the CIA operators. Oh, I said, great. You are a friend of a secret agent. Oh, that sets you apart from all the other serious investigators and researchers. Great. Huh? When you got to call your E. Howard Hunt, who is then praising the Jesuits having the biggest and the greatest secret service all around the world, yeah, as your friend, then... yeah, you are part of the Secret Service as well. That's a logical conclusion. He's naming E. Howard Hunt as his friend. If you're naming somebody who's working for the agency for decades as your friend, yeah, then you're friend with the system and you're friend with the organization or the Secret Service. Yeah? So don't trust him. Please, don't trust him. Yeah? For example, he will tell you that the Vietnam War was a drug war, which is absolutely incorrect. That is only the Judas Iscariot side of it, so the monetary side of it, that people who are serving then the spiritual thing, they get their reward by money, fortune, fame. Yeah? But the Vietnam War was not about drugs. Yeah? So this is disinformation. Yeah? And you see, this is really a thing that I forgot in the German session. Yeah? When researcher says in the camera that I'm friend with E. Howard Hunt, wow, I said, wow. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Yeah, so in the next part, you see there comes the next lie. The Vietnam War was not about a drug war. Apparently, he does not know the book of Avro Manhattan, Vietnam, Why Did We Go? And I would assume that he is not telling it on purpose. He's friends with the Secret Service agent. He's not supposed to tell everything. And he says that in the background for so many centuries, or then he corrected himself, decades. Yeah? Yeah? You see, this is just a Freudian, what is it? Freudian split?
Slip, yes.
Split, yes. So many centuries or decades. You see that if you would have named the centuries in the background, then there are no many possibilities which kind of organization would be behind the Vietnam War. But then he corrected it and said, oh, decades. And decades, you see that the CIA was founded after the Second World War. Yeah? So he corrected that. Found it very interesting here. You cannot imagine the amount of time I need to spend about the research of all the things, but you have to be aware of, you see, he can also be part of a counter-information or counter-intelligence system. He's not speaking out the real truth. He's just playing tricks on you. Decades, Vietnam War, drug war, and he's befriended with E. Howard Hunt. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah. Now I will show you a video which will pass. On that video, it's been said that through a certain Mr. Robert Fraser, special agent from the FBI, it is not possible that 2 shots have been occurred in that small amount of time. And that's why I would like to show you that video.
Well, here's the problem. The mechanical firing time of the rifle, as tested by Fraser, the FBI. By mechanical firing time, we mean just this. Boom, working the bolt, and pulling the trigger again. The necessary minimum mechanical firing time was 2.3 seconds. If you add on to that realistic additions, such as reacquiring the target in the scope, and secondly, zeroing in the crosshairs to permit accurate shooting, you're now no longer at 2.3 seconds, you're up at 3 or 4 seconds between shots on this rifle. They're just, given the Zapruder film, wasn't enough time for this rifle to get off 2 shots in that time interval.
But please don't underestimate the power behind the presidents. So behind the president is not only Robert Kennedy, but of course also here J. Edgar Hoover, 33-degree Freemason, running the FBI and therefore also the Dallas police community. And that's why I came up with a strange thing. I will show that to you at the end of the session now. Before I forget it, Brett, all these agencies behind the scheme, and behind this, behind the curtain, behind the curtain, there are special operations within the secret services called counterintelligence, who are officially being the intelligence program against other intelligence services. So these people stage some patsies, spoofs, lookalikes, body doubles, etc., to fool a foreign country, for example. But, and it's a big but, if you think that counterintelligence is a word on its own, then please extract the 2 parts of that word and then please compare that to the real meaning. What is intelligence? I'd say, if somebody is smart, huh? And what is counterbred?
The opposite.
The opposite. So what is the opposite of being smart?
Stupid.
Yeah. So that's the agency to stupefy or to make the people stupid.
Yes, right.
It's counterintelligence. It's so easy if you really think about the meaning of words.
Of course. Or rather, it's a move to counter the intelligence, to make it look stupid.
Yes, like the Counter-Reformation.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm. So once again, that's the last part here because I'm really, it's hard to concentrate on that subject for that long. This is a play here called JFK Reloaded. And you get points if you can shoot the president according to the official theory. I know that is an absolutely satanic game and anti-Christian, but nevertheless I have played it for several occasions because I wanted to find out if it is possible to create that amount of shots in that short period of time. But it's a big but. The speed of the limousine is not correct, and also it's a big but. The Zapruder film has been manipulated highly. Nevertheless, these are just some extracts of the movie. So you see, this is really no problem. The weather is fine. You have a rifle, and you're looking outside the Texas Schoolbook Depository from the 6th floor, and that's what your supposed look is. And that is really interesting to go into the nitty-gritty and to see that Lee Harvey Oswald could never be the lone assassin. Yeah, so I managed to get several hits here on that position here on the Houston Street, but I almost never managed to get a complete shot in the. Yeah, you see, this is the best position here when the target is moving towards you, but not moving away from you. So this is the best shot you have ever get. Also from the. Is it the angle?
Mm-hmm.
if you got a target in front of you and if you got a target down below, you have to adjust the rifle in a very steep angle, you see, and that is very hard to do, especially when the target is moving. And so therefore the best shot you can have is when you have a smooth angle like this. Yeah. So there you can have your clean shot. Yeah. Until this position. Yeah. Now everything which is going on here is moving too fast because he's making a turn. Yeah. And you would have to turn your rifle, which is extremely hard to do. Yeah. Because at the same time you're looking through the scope. Okay. Yeah. Now you see the angle here, the radius of the car. It's just moving too fast to have a clear shot. And now you approach another problem. You see, you got the window here also, and you got the boxes maybe, and you got the traffic light here, and you got the tree. Yeah, so you got several problems here which absolutely avoid any clear shot up to the moment when the angle is not so steep, which is here. Which then would make sense to have the fatal shot there where it actually appeared. Yeah? So that is the video game. So it is absolutely useless to position yourself on the 6th floor window. Because to get away from that, if you are really the shooter, you get rid of the rifle and the shells. Yeah, you would have chosen a location where you can get rid of everything. And you would have chosen a situation where Lee Harvey Oswald could never kill the president because there was not enough time to reload the rifle. And how many experts would you have? The only experts which are capable of doing that shot actually is, you won't believe it, from the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Can you name one other occasion, Brad, when the National Institute for Standards and Technology has made an official study of a building who was coming down in real time and it had a natural cause?
Building 7, the third building that fell on the day of September 11th, attacks in New York City.
Yes,
2001.
And so you got another official source, an official document, another official agency serving another official agency. So that's the game.
Right.
Yeah, you won't get the truth if you are inside the system or inside the matrix. You only get the truth if you're looking at it from the bird's eye perspective outside that system. Because you don't follow the things which you have been feeding with. You have to come to your own conclusions, do your own research, and then to look at the Bible, and then you discover that this world, especially the high-ranking individuals, have always been in the Antichrist spirit. So these are all liars. And JFK is no exception. You see, he got his fame and fortune by faking books, for example. He must be better than the other liars and the other people around. But according to 1 Samuel 8, these are just pagan kings and rulers for pagans. So don't question yourself what would be the outcome if Kennedy would have survived and everything would be great and the Vietnam War would have not happened. No. That's not the case because he was a pagan ruler. But once again, I would like to show that, and I would like to end this now because it is about Lee Harvey Oswald, that you really can't trust anybody and any source in any official documents. They can fake birth certificates. They can fake marriage certificates. They can fake death certificates. They can fake identities. They can fake pictures. They can fake movies. And people are too naive to look at the film and said, oh yeah, that's how it happened. Yeah, the film has been modified, altered, etc. With the Zapruder film, which I think in 2 or 3 sessions from now we are going into the Zapruder movie, they had more than 4 years to make modifications on that movie. 4 years before it went to the public. It was being handed over to the Time magazine, where it stayed from 1963 to 1968. Time magazine, huh? Time, Father Time, Saturn, and Sovereign Military Order of Malta. It's always the same, but the average people does not know about Freemasons or so. Oh yeah, I once heard, but these are just architects. Yeah. These are just architects on the Tower of Babel. Yeah. And it's also very interesting when they are having here the license plate of KK300 instead of GG300, KK being 11. K being 11 means 22, and 22 is the path of the Sephirot in the Kabbalah. But you see that if we would go into every nitty-gritty, we would never finish with the Kennedy assassination. I just like to hand over the valid point that nothing is sure in the Kennedy assassination as long as you are not a member of a as long as you do not study the occult, and then you see all the strange coincidences and all the secret information they hand over, which are not public, which are not being seen for the public. And that's the sad thing, that you can't tell nothing about Lee Harvey Oswald. Nothing. You can't be sure. If you say you are absolutely sure that Lee Harvey Oswald was shot or not shot, you can't prove it, because these are professional liars. Yeah? They are backing up themselves. So one is verifying the other. One is saying, yes, I can back that up. I'm also witness to the scene. Yeah, everybody can manipulate everything. You can't trust anybody. Don't trust anybody. Don't trust man, trust God. Yeah. So the killing of the president, of Kennedy, is just a prime example how the entire world and the entire system has been rigged up. It is just Kennedy as a prime example. It's not the only example, and he will not be the last example. But you really see that it's had nothing to do with your vote or with your Democratic or Republicans or so. It's just been set up. It's just a matrix. You have to step outside that matrix, outside that system. You have to rely on the Bible, and then you see it's all heretic, it's all pagan, it's all BS. I'm just spending my time on that because I think it is important to hand over information to people that they really do not trust any Donald Trump, any Joe Biden, any savior, any Donald Trump, any Robert Kennedy Jr. You see, this is all within the system. These are just players on the chessboards. We are only pawns in the game. Or useless eaters. Yeah, I like to hand it over to Brett. And we see you in the next session.
Yeah, Michael, this is just such a big, huge scam that's being perpetrated on us. I mean, it's absolutely incredible how far they have to go to cover things up. But yeah, the world is lulled to sleep by things like this, that we're put to sleep by it, and we're expected to stay silent and never to raise an outcry against the real true source of power and all of this what can we say, manipulation and control. It's incredible how much has been done. And you get to this point, Michael, where you think, how much further can it go? And yet it just keeps going. It's mind-boggling to me that things just continue the way they do. And perhaps it's also by the grace of Almighty God that we're able to see it in this way. And it just it's amazing that we can live our lives and be lulled to sleep by the system, so that we don't ever question it. We don't ever think about why things are the way they are and how bad they are until we crack open an old King James Bible and start reading it. And then it becomes obvious, because the scripture was there to give us a true example. And men have perverted it. They have changed it. They have altered it. They have changed the way they have taught these things. And, wow, here we are in 2022 and video games on the killing of Kennedy. I mean, who would ever think that such a thing would be the case?
Oh, really, Brett, there are games for free also on YouTube, which you can play, shooting people and tanks, etc., and you get points. And if you then think it over for the future generation, they have been grown up with smartphones and all the stuff. Then you see the government is creating digital virtual soldiers who then can eliminate people by drones and getting positive social scores.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I assume that because you see that has been promoted everywhere. Has been promoted everywhere. It's so easy. You see that if you are sitting on your couch or in your chair in an agency, and then you just have to program a rocket or what else, or a robot or so, and then he's killing, exterminating like Terminator 2 and Skylab, and so you see that everything is then digitally. Then you don't see any people, you don't see any crime. You just program somebody, and he will kill the individual. And then you get that's maybe your profession, your professional killer, like the soldier in the Vietnam War. It's just like the digital alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you don't have to need to have any morals, don't have to have any ethics. And maybe the people do not care because it's just a job. Yeah, I've just came across kind of people in another profession who said that, well, if I don't do it, somebody else will.
Right. That's true. I've heard that saying many times.
Mm-hmm.
Can you back up that video just a couple frames there of Kennedy, the limousine there? I was just wanting to see what that flag looks like in front of the limousine there. You can see a little corner of it on the. Yeah, stop it right there. Does that look like a yellow fringe around the flag there?
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah, isn't that something how that yellow fringe has been put there and is there to signify, from what I believe was a research of some other researchers, the territorial laws. I forget the true terminology of this, but the maritime law.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of the, was that the, I forget. I'm sorry. I should look it up, but is that part of, was it a 1929 or 1933 or something law, I think, put in place? I have to use my tablet to figure out here. I'm recording the screen right now on my computer, and I can't look it up on my computer. But yeah, Michael, just incredible the amount of research you have to go to debunk and explain the situation here in the United States. But that's what the Jesuits are all about. They're all about making it next to impossible to expose the level and the depth and the gravity of this deeds of evil the incredible magnitude of it. It's too much. It's too much for all of us to handle at once. We have to take it apart in little pieces, and then it becomes palpable. But to just simply walk up to someone on the street and try and explain something like this will not work. It just doesn't work. I've thought about this over and over again, and the end conclusion is just kind of a mind fog. If you try and explain, I don't know. I have a very hard time trying to explain this, but that's just the nature of this world anyway. I mean, it's the end result, Michael. They've reduced us down to a level of depravity. It's all done on purpose. I mean, that's what the world is all about.
Remember the 10 Commandments of the Georgia Guidestones: be not a cancer to the earth. So the earth is all that matters. Matter matters, but not people. Matter matters. Yeah, material things are matter. Yeah, but individuals, and you see that people are just being seen as, not as divine creation, and that's on purpose, and that's what actually will bring the world down, because the people see themselves just as machines, mindless. Yeah, that's a sad part of it, but I'm sorry. The state does not care about the individual. The state only cares for himself or themselves. Yeah, it's security for the state, not security for the civilians. They only protect themselves, the elite. Yeah, who's the elite? We will go into the next session, and then we see the next step behind.